Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, okay, alright. We'll try this one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the live by Table Mini Studios. My name is Fares Najid, and today we'll be diving into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. If you are here, please give a shout out on the live chat. Hello. I would like to check with everyone if the microphone is all right. I heard there was some crackling prior. So if you are out there and you can hear me, do hook me up. Hello. 1YU. It calms my heart knowing that all of you are out there. Hi, Jody. It works. It works. And thank you so much to Dave, who gave me some tips on how to turn it back on. So shout out to you. And Sahir, welcome. Hippo2626. It works. It does. And also Muhammad Karyanto Osman for being here and saying hey. While you guys are waiting for the live to begin, I would like to tell you that this live today is about the dive into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Feel free to ask me any questions about Dungeons and Dragons, all you want. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Oh, Jamal Schultz is here. Shafi is here. Very nice to see all of you. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I've never gone live before like this. Yeah, it's really exciting. For those of you who are here, if you've never heard of Dungeons and Dragons before, or Table Minis in fact, do check us out at www.tableminis.com. We will be going live in approximately 2 minutes, and we'll see how things go. I think GPA 5.0. Oh my god, that would be so weird. I will be very happy with a 2.5. I would like to introduce everyone to everyone else. Some of the people here are my classmates at Republic Poly, while others are my very good friends from Table Minis, and also my very good friend Jamil Schulze is on. He's taking a break from studying to say a hi, so that's really nice to see. And also my wife is on. Hi, Red Affair. Of course you can join Table Minis. Come on down to the studio and play some games and just hang out with the community. The community is amazing. May I know, Jody, have you ever thought about being a hype man before? Yo, G0704. Thank you very much for being on my live today. This live is brought to you by Table Minis. If you ever want to find out what Table Minis is all about, you can go to www.tableminis.com, or you can check us out on Instagram, okay? We'll be starting shortly. welcome to another episode, or actually the first ever live episode of Table Minis. And we are going to talk about a dive into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I believe it's one of the most fantastic adventures I've ever known myself. And I play Dungeons and Dragons almost every week at Table Minis. Table Minis, if you do not know, you can find them. They are at online at www.tableminis.com. And you can check out their space, which is at Armugam Street. They run Dungeons and Dragons games, either TTRPG, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, and the lot. So, in today's live, we will be talking about Dungeons and Dragons. First of all, may I ask out in the chat if you know what Dungeons and Dragons is all about? I'm gonna put it out. I'm gonna put out 30 seconds for you to just give a one sentence answer to what of what Dungeons and Dragons is. So, bombastic side eye, criminal offensive side eye. I wonder what that means. Anyone? Yes. If you have an answer, just put it up on the chat, and then we'll share it with everyone. Oh, Corianto, you're totally new. That's great. No problem. We will be more than happy to explain to you what Dungeons and Dragons is all about. So, 1WU says Dungeons and Dragons is love. Dungeons and Dragons is life. Well, that's slightly extreme, but I will take that as sure. And Felix Tan says it's the thing that we do with the Dungeons and the Dragons. Okay, yes. Shahir says, is it about dragons? Partially. However, sometimes when you play Dungeons and Dragons, you don't meet a dragon until later on in life. So Jamil Schulze says something here. A collaborative storytelling game, adventure, experience, full of imagination, laughter, tears, life, and death. So it seems that Jamil Schulze has some experience with Dungeons and Dragons, it seems. Oh, someone says it's based on that one movie. Wow, that's interesting. We dress as dragons and run into the dungeons. Okay, so we have some answers here. I am going to share with you how I summarize what Dungeons and Dragons is all about. Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game, meaning you play it at the table. And the only tools you might need is actually a set of dice, a pencil, and a piece of paper. Dungeons and Dragons is a collaborative storytelling game where you, as a player, play a character. Okay, a character can be one that is can cast magic, or very strong, or very fast. And then you have someone called the Dungeon Master. As the Dungeon Master, you tell the story, or you narrate the story by telling them where the situation is at, where's the location at, and then the players decide what they want to do in this situation. And once they decide what they want to do in this situation, the Dungeon Master will call out for the players to roll dice. And the dice will decide if their actions is a failure or a success. And that's basically what Dungeons and Dragons is all about. This year, as of 2024, Dungeons and Dragons is 50 years old. Can you imagine that? It's much older than I am. And it's crazy. It's crazy how we are still playing it today. Now, I did mention earlier Dungeon Masters. So Dungeon Master is basically your referee, your narrator. This person also plays other characters within the game. So for example, if you're walking into a park and then you see another character and the character says hello, the Dungeon Master would play that character. And you can decide what you want to do, you'll talk about it, and that is all. So when you want to start playing Dungeons and Dragons, what are some of the things that you would need? Okay, I'm going to show you some of the tools that you might need to play Dungeons and Dragons, okay? So this is a set of dice. Okay, I'm going to open this for the first time. This came from a box set called the Essentials Kit. I'm going to show you what the Essential Kit's all about. It's this one, okay? Essentials Kit. It's the Dungeons and Dragons Essential Kit. They released it about like 3 years ago, and this is dice. Okay, I'm going to open it for the first time. I'm going to show you all the different dice that you would have for Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, The first dice that we will all would need is actually something called a D4. The D4 looks like a triangle, like that. Alright, the next set of dice you need is called the D6. This, I would call it a normal Monopoly die. After the D6, you have something called the D8, and then you have the D10 and the D100. This comes in a pair. So if I were to roll this together at the same time, this will be a 53%. So it becomes a percentile die. The next one that comes on is the D12. You have a D12 over here. And last but not least, the most important die of all dies in Dungeons and Dragons is called a D20. Everything that you do in Dungeons and Dragons, you will roll with a D20. Okay? So, after you have the dice, what do you need? You will need a character. And a character is what you will play. So when you play RPGs or you want to play computer games and a lot, right? You will create your character. It's very similar with Dungeons and Dragons. You would have to create a character. Now, in the past 10 years, it's been easy because you can go online to dndbeyond.com and you can create your characters there. However, before this time, people would use something called the player handbook. This is what it looks like. This is a player handbook, and the player handbook will give you important information on how to create your character. For example, you have your races, right? You will pick a race. There are a few races here that I can show you. For example, I can show you a half-elf. Okay? The half-elf looks like this. It is half. Oh, my bad. Let's see. Where's the half-elf? The half-elf is here. Gnome. Half-elf. The half-elf would look something like that. So half-elves are basically someone who is half human or half elf. What kind of races do you want to see? I can show you right now. Put it up on the chat and I can show you in the book how they look like. Mean Girls sounds super interesting. Oh, Dave, I think you'll be very interested in this game. It's pretty fun, I must say. Yeah, so I can show you other races as well. My favorite race of the lot is actually human. Because in Dungeons and Dragons, humans are pretty balanced, I must say. Then, after you have chosen a race, you would choose a class. So what is a class? A class, I would say, is a job or like what are your expertise. You might be trained in a particular kind of style. For example, there are things like barbarians. They are strong. You can imagine like the Hulk is a barbarian. And then you have something called the rogue. The rogue are like sneaky creatures. They are like thieves. Back when 50 years ago, when Gary Gygax first created Dungeons and Dragons, there was no rogue yet. There was thief though. So right now it has transitioned or it has evolved into something called the rogue. Let me show you how a rogue looks like. So let's see. A rogue is at page 94, and then let's flip to page 94 to see what a rogue might look like depicted on in the book. So this is a rogue. Okay, this rogue looks pretty evil lah. But there are some rogues that I've played with that are pretty cool. Has any one of you out there played rogues before? If you have, give us a shout out for the rogue. Sneak attack, man. So after you pick the race and class, then you will then decide what they are on your character sheet. So you have a character sheet. You see there are 6 abilities. The numbers that are going to come on this, they're going to be placed in this area. The 6 abilities are the ones that are going to dictate all the other numbers that you will see later on this page. The 6 ability scores are as such. There is strength, dexterity, you have constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Strength is how strong it is for you to squash a tomato. Dexterity is how well you dodge a tomato. Constitution is when you eat a rotten tomato, how long before you have a stomach ache. Intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is you don't put a tomato into a fruit salad. That would taste quite disgusting. I don't know, maybe some of you have tried. And last but not least, charisma. You can sell a tomato to anyone. Okay, so in Dungeons and Dragons, that's what you do. You create a character, and then you go on an adventure, and the adventure can be as short as 3 hours, or it can be as long as 3 sets of 3 hours, 9 hours, or it can be like long campaigns. Some of these campaigns have gone up to 20 years long, and the story continues. So Dungeons and Dragons, it takes a community to play Dungeons and Dragons. Over at Table Minis, what we are trying to achieve, or we have achieved, is a community of players, people that come down to the studio and play together and share moments of joy, sadness, fear together in a fictional world. It can be really fun at times. There are some parts of the adventure where you just go shopping, and then there are times when you go to a theme park and ride on the rides at the theme park. Or there are moments where your characters die. Sometimes after playing for about a year, a character dies, and when the character dies, what happens is that character can no longer be played ever again. So I've played with a party where a character died, and in the next session, we spent 3 hours just going through a funeral. Has anyone out there had their character die in Dungeons and Dragons? So the longest running campaign at Table Minis thus far, Jamil Schulze, is approximately 1 year, 8 months. That is about 36 sessions. However, we have a game called Mad Mage that recently just finished its 100th episode. It's a drop-in, drop-out where people can come in and out and go through a dungeon and just fight in the dungeon, and it's 100 hours. So that 100 sessions. So that's approximately 300 hours of gameplay, and it's being run by a dungeon master called Dennett. Dennett is also the founding member of Table Minis. If you ever come to the studio, you want to hang out, you can speak to him. He has a vast knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, so that is about all the time that we have to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. So right now I want to, if you have any questions to ask, feel free to do that. So I have a question here from Nazri. What's the highest level a player can get, and what is it like playing such a character? You can play up to level 20 in Dungeons and Dragons. And to play at such a level, there's so many things that you have to take note of. You have higher level spells. You will also fight higher level creatures. You'll fight creatures like the Tarrasque, for example, or you'll fight Vecna. If you ever watched Stranger Things, you would have seen something called Vecna like being mentioned. So it can be quite tough. I honestly have never played a level 20 character before. I've created one, but like to just go on it's quite daunting. I have a question here. Is it very difficult to be a dungeon master? It is actually not very difficult to be a dungeon master. And the basic concept of Dungeons and Dragons or being a dungeon master is actually just to have fun with a bunch of friends. You know, sometimes when you were younger, you would sit down with your friends and then just imagine that you were Power Rangers or you were a particular kind of character from television, and you say like, oh, I did this, I'm going to go and fight the monster. Now there is a system, that Dungeons and Dragons is the system that allows for you to do that with a structure. So to be a dungeon master, you require a couple of books, okay, to help you out. You can either go online to D&D Beyond and find the digital version, or you can actually purchase the physical book at Table Minis if you want, and it looks something like that. So this is one of the first books that you will need. Okay. This book is called the Dungeon Master Guide, and in this book it teaches you, or it gives you an idea of what dungeon mastering is all about. The next book that you will need is the Monster Manual. This one will give you an array of monsters that you can use to pit against your friends, the characters that they will play, and see how they overcome these creatures. And last but not least, you will need some idea of how to create a character so that you can help your players create these characters when they come to your table. There's a question here. What's your favorite part of running D&D. My favorite part of running D&D is sitting around a table with a group of people, be it strangers or friends, and going through a simulation of a fantasy world and watching my players becoming heroes, because there's a hero in all of us, I believe. Each and every one of us long to be a hero. Everyone wants to go on an adventure, and to be able to see that week on week running our games is a blessing, and I'm very grateful to be able to do this weekly with my players. I have a question here. What's your favorite adventure you have played so far? So my favorite adventure that I've ever run and played is actually the one that I've run. Actually, my favorite is Lost Mines of Phandelver. The next one will be Curse of Strahd. They are neck to neck. Curse of Strahd is you fight vampires, and Lost Mines of Phandelver, you basically go to different areas and towns. It's the first starter kit from Wizards of the Coast, and my favorite adventure that I've played in is a game called Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I played this with Jody. We can see 1WYOO. We played that during the pandemic. Half of it was played during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we would wake up at 8 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. We would go to someone's house somewhere along Queensway, and we will play for 3 hours. And then later on, when the pandemic arrived, we had to play online, and we ended the adventure 1.5 years later. And until today, I still can remember the many moments where we worked together to overcome the obstacles that we face. And yeah. So I'm about to end my live in approximately 1 minute. Do you have any shout out right there? I see a shout out. My rogue is a 16-year-old girl, level 5, Mia Dredson, and then it played as my grandmother. There's a question here. Man, now I think we need to carve out a live streaming studio at home. You're a natural. You're very sweet, Shima. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here with me today, guys. I understand that this is just an assessment for school, but honestly, after the first 5 minutes, I'm enjoying myself. So thank you very much for being here. Take care, and remember that all of you are heroes in my eyes. Bye-bye.